FPL blank game week 34, my team selection. In today's video, we're going to have a look at game week 34. Of course, the free hit for me, as it is for a lot of you, we'll have a look at my updated draft. We'll have a little bit of a chat of the final remaining 5 weeks of the season. Who is safe enough to go with it on the free hit? Maybe who's not worth a punt? Which fixtures we should be looking to target and how my team is lining up. And actually, is Mo Salah really the best captain? What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And just before we go to game week 34, I think we best discuss the worst double game week I can remember, with it being the biggest double of the season and it just being an absolute horror show pretty much for most of the assets that we look to buy this week. I got 75 points, which was one above my safety score. So I got a really, really small green arrow from just outside the top 8,000 to 7,722nd. Basically all because I played the assistant manager. Arteta coming in with 17. I was 5 minutes away from getting 5 wins across the 5 matches with my assistant manager. But Saliba combined with Mateta decided to ruin that. That game ended 2-2. I still got 5 from him and 12 in the first game. So 17 is a very reasonable score for the assistant manager. That's 51 points across the 3 weeks of playing it. So I'm not going to complain. I'll absolutely take that. It was a good return from it. And it was basically the only thing saving me from having an absolute horror show of a game week. Once we look at my starting 11, Raya with 7, Gvardiol with 7, Munoz with 6, all with clean sheets on their first round of games. And once the second sort of fixtures came around during the midweek, there were just no points to show for it. Konza only coming in with a 3. To be honest, I didn't expect loads from him, but Salah with a 3, Bukayo Saka, massive disappointment. Didn't make 60 minutes in either game. No attacking returns, coming away with 2 points. It's a close run thing between him and Phil Foden of who's been a bigger disappointment on my wildcard in game week 30. Probably Foden. Almost definitely Foden. We'll talk about him in a moment. But the other one that's getting close is Ismail Assar of Crystal Palace, who came away with just 3 points with no start in the second game. Morgan Rogers actually getting a return. So congratulations to him. One of my 2 attackers to actually get a return this week, and Mateta with a 10. But Mateta's late goal, meaning that I didn't get the assistant manager points that I could have got, meant it basically didn't do anything for my rank overall. So I couldn't even really celebrate that Mateta goal when it went in. And of course, Marmoush, 2 blanks away at Everton and at home to Aston Villa, just basically summed up this week. So if it wasn't for Arteta, I would have been on a pretty big red arrow. And to be honest, I'll take the green arrow, absolutely. But it feels a little bit like I wish it had been slightly more, because I stuck with Phil Foden, which was a massive mistake because Alexander Isak didn't do anything. Who's the player I played over Foden? And the replacements for Foden would have been De Bruyne. Now, De Bruyne did blank in both games, but he did have he's the first choice, it looks like now, and he's a good option going forward. The other option I could have gone with was Jared Bowen, who scored 9 points. So both of those would have net me some points. De Bruyne probably wasn't quite worth the -4, but it would have paid off some of it, and I already would have done the transfer. Jared Bowen would have played it off completely, and of course Brian and Burmo as well. So it now means once I get to game week 35, I've still got Phil Foden. So with only 1 free transfer that week, I feel I'm a transfer behind pretty much everyone. I don't see there's anyone in my starting 11 that people are going to be wanting to take a -4 to buy. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to be doing Foden to De Bruyne, but everyone else is going to be buying someone in my starting lineup. So I effectively feel like I'm locked into a -4 in probably game week 35 and being a -4 behind everyone else on top of the other hits we might have to take if there are doubles as well. So listen, it's a green arrow. I've got 5 weeks left. I've got a free hit and a bench boost still to play. Hopefully I can get a green arrow on the free hit, which will set me up nicely for the final 4 weeks. But I have to say, with Foden being out and basically knowing I'm going to commit to a -4 of Foden, 2 and Burmo and probably game week 35, feels like I'm a little bit further behind than I wish I was this week. So going and having a look at my free hit draft, and things have changed a little bit. I'm starting to get a bit settled on some of the players, but there's still little combinations of things that I'm more than likely to change between now and the deadline, like trying to predict Liverpool's minutes. Like, do I want Chelsea in my draft? Do I want Palmer? Do I want Cucurella, for example? How do I feel about having both Brian and Burma and Chris Wood? What do we think on Raul Jimenez as a third forward as well? Yeah, and then the triple Newcastle. At the moment, I've gone with Cher, who is a slight doubt, so I'm waiting for a press conference on that. We're waiting on updates on Anthony Gordon to know if Harvey Barnes is going to start and all that good stuff as well. But diving in, so I've gone with double Wolves defense at the moment. Jose Sarr is currently yellow flagged, but if he doesn't play, I've got Sanchez of Chelsea on the bench at home to Everton. I suppose that's the benefit to a free hit, is that you can take a punt on someone who might be a bit of a doubt to play, because Jose Sarr's either going to start or he's not going to get any minutes at all, it will seem like. So we've gone with him because Leicester at home just feels like the fixture that you want to target. They've only scored twice in their last 9 games. Now, Wolves' defense has been okay. There are definitely better defenses that I could look to pick from this week, but I do think that Jose Sarr at home to Leicester is not a bad shout. We've doubled up, of course, with Aït-Nouri, who feels absolutely locked in my free hit. Playing left wing back, going up against that Leicester side. They will get chances. Hopefully he gets some as well. And the clean sheet potential looks pretty good. We've then gone with Ryan Sessegnon of Fulham. And the more I think about it, the more I think he feels like a gift that's just too good to turn down. He is a defender in FPL playing right wing for Fulham. Now, the only slight doubt for us all is that in theory Adama Traore could start, although that feels unlikely. Harry Wilson has just come back from injury. In theory, who Sessegnon is starting in the place of. He played 11 minutes off the bench in place of Sessegnon in game week 33. And of course, there's a chance that Harry Wilson takes that starting spot back. But Sessegnon has been really good, so I don't particularly think it's something that's going to change. He might get an early sub, and in theory, that could creep to around the 60th minute, which does put me off slightly. But a defender playing in a right wing position against Southampton feels slightly too good to turn down. Your final starting defender is Fabian Schär. I'm almost certain I'll have one at least Newcastle defender. A home to Ipswich feels like a great bet, but Schär is currently a little bit of a doubt. So if he's out, I'll probably go to Trippier and just chase the upside. I don't think Schär or Trippier are worth the money in general game weeks, but when you're on a free hit and you've got all the money to spare, I do think Schär and Trippier have slightly bigger upside. Particularly Schär, he's got 2 returns in his past 4. Now, one of them was hitting the crossbar from the halfway line, but I'm pretty happy with him if he's going to be available. So I'll keep an eye on the press conference for that one. Then we have a look at the bench, and that is where Trent Alexander-Arnold and Cucurella are both sitting. I really like both of these options, and I could find a way. For example, if I'm not trusting in Sessegnon, easily one of these two are going to be the two that sub in. I have the budget, so I may as well pick them on my free hit this week. Spurs at home for Trent. If I think he's going to start, I do think now they'd need just 1 point to win the Premier League, with Arsenal dropping points last night. I really like him as an option. I'm just not fully convinced he plays 60 minutes. Now, that could be a start and comes off before 60, or that could be a substitute appearance. Now, I think it's most likely he does get the minutes, but am I confident enough to pick him on a free hit? I do think he could be one of the most explosive defenders in the game this week, but so could Aït-Nouri, right? So could Sessegnon, so could Fabian Schär. And a similar thing goes to Cucurella. Home to Everton, who are notoriously pretty toothless in attack at the moment. And he gets very far forward. We've seen him, I think, pick up 7 goals for Chelsea so far this season. He sees himself in the box quite a lot. So he is the other one that I'm considering buying into my defense. But at the moment, I haven't started either Trent or Cucurella, and I've gone with Aït-Nouri, Sessegnon, and Fabian Schär in front of Jose Sarr. Into my midfield. So at the moment, I've gone with Jacob Murphy. And let's talk a little bit more about those Newcastle midfielders. So I think Barnes will start and it will be Murphy. But after a 4-1 loss, I don't think it's completely out of the question that Anthony Gordon comes back into the lineup. And if that's going to happen, I do think it will be in place of Harvey Barnes. Murphy's done absolutely nothing wrong to even consider getting himself dropped. He has been their best player for the best part of 3 or 4 months in that attack. Maybe Isaac, okay. But he's been a very, very good contributor to that Newcastle team for the best part of 3 or 4 months since the start of 2025. So I don't really see any reason for him not to start. Now, he might start and still only play 60, 65, which is what we have seen from him quite a lot over the past few weeks. Now, he has the ability to do damage quite a lot in that short space of time, but I'm not really sure I want to punt on Barnes given that Gordon's there. I think Barnes, if he starts, is the best option. I think he's by far a better pick than Murphy. He's more selfish. His goal threat is definitely higher and he could explode more. So if there was an update that Anthony Gordon had a slight setback or they're not ready to start him, then I think I would go with Barnes. But at the moment, it's Murphy because he just feels safer. I could opt with none of them. Now, that doesn't feel very sensible, but I could start, for example, Luis Diaz, who's on my bench, over Jacob Murphy, and then have double Newcastle defense. I think that's another very reasonable thing that I could do. So Luis Diaz in for Murphy, and then I do Sessegnon to Trippier or Jose Sarr to Nick Pope and go for a double up on the defense because they have the highest percentage chance of a clean sheet this week. But at the moment, I think a double up on Newcastle attack will be the most common thing, and I've gone with Jacob Murphy for now. Then it is Cole Palmer, and every video I've posted this week, there has been a lot of chat about Cole Palmer, and I'm not set on him. I understand very well why people don't like Cole Palmer as an option this week. Everton have been pretty good defensively. Chelsea haven't been great going forward. Palmer hasn't really scored in a very long time as well. Now, Tarkowski's not there, so it's likely that Keane fills in for him at centre-back, which is a definite boost to Palmer and to Chelsea's output. He's on a few set pieces. He's on penalties as well. He does just have a lot of routes to points, and I don't think there are other midfielders who are definitely better than Palmer this week. Like Luis Diaz. Is Luis Diaz a better pick than Palmer? Like, no, I just don't think he is. Luis Diaz might be a better pick than Bryan Mbeumo. He might be a better pick than Jacob Murphy this week, but I don't think if Luis Diaz is going to start, it will be in place of Palmer. So as much as I actually don't think he is a great pick, I'm not certain he's going to get double returns. He might only come away with one if we're lucky. I'm not really sure I trust other players over him at the moment. Then it is Mo Salah at home to Spurs, of course, just that 1 point away from winning the Premier League. Now, he has got the captaincy armband because I saw Spurs defend against Nottingham Forest on Monday night. So he has got the captaincy armband. He's definitely going to be in my free hit. Now, the vice captain at the moment is on Alexander Isak. It could be Isak or it could be Matheus Cunha. Both of them I really like. Now, if we get an update from Wolves on Friday in the press conference that Bellegarde is expected to be back for Wolves, then I might swap Cunha to Strand Larsen because Cunha only started the last game because Bellegarde was out. And Pereira, the Wolves manager, has basically said when Cunha came back from suspension, I don't need to change the team that's winning, so Cunha is not going to start. So if Bellegarde is back, I will have a decision to make. But until we hear that, Cunha at home to Leicester, I cannot turn down. And then it's Isak at home to Ipswich. It's a great fixture. His returns have been a little bit less recently, but having just come off the back of a 4-1 defeat, I do think that Newcastle will want to win this game very, very comfortably. And then that leaves the two players I've picked, both playing on the Thursday night in Chris Wood and Bryan Mbeumo. I don't love having both of them. I do think they are both good picks in their own right. I think Chris Wood has the better alternatives in someone like a Raul Jimenez, in someone like a Luis Diaz and playing a 3-5-2, in someone like a Danny Welbeck, in someone like an Evan Nielsen as well. But I do think Chris Wood at home is a better pick than Bryan Mbeumo. So I've actually ended up with both of them in my team. Now, if it gets to the deadline and we expect to hear that Jimenez is going to start, I might go with him over Chris Wood away at Southampton. But even if Muniz is in and around the squad, I'm not certain that Jimenez for 60, 70 minutes is worth it. I probably would go with Chris Wood then. And then I've gone with Bryan Mbeumo. Now, Nottingham Forest are the fourth worst defence in the league over the past 6 for XGC conceded. Now, they have had some really difficult games. I think they've played Manchester City, Aston Villa, Arsenal in that period as well, and some other ones that I'm forgetting. So there is a little bit of, situational bias that has led into that Nottingham Forest defence. But I do think Mbeumo is still a good pick. I don't think it's a great pick. And again, Luis Diaz on the bench is staring me in it. Like having one Liverpool player in this draft starting in the game that they're expected to win the title against a Spurs team who are all over the place doesn't feel like a very sensible thing to do particularly, but I don't really know who I drop. So at the moment, I've got the starting 11 that I'm pretty happy with, and I have players on the bench that could well start for me by the deadline. The only other ones that I suppose are missing are other Newcastle players. In theory, someone like a Harvey Barnes, someone like a Trippier, or someone like a Raul Jimenez as well. Outside of that, and maybe changing a goalkeeper to someone like a Leno, I think the 15 players I pick will probably be the ones on the screen at the moment. But again, let's wait for the press conferences on Friday. I'm getting much closer to a draft. I'm happy with slightly diversifying risk, not having too many eggs in one basket. It does feel like I just feel like I should have more Liverpool in this draft, but I haven't decided if I want Luis Diaz and if he's a better pick than other players. And if I go with Trent, is he definitely going to start and who's he going to start over? But that is where the draft is at the moment. Again, free hit this week. I know a lot of you are on it. If you're not on free hit, there was a lot in the video on Wednesday, the transfer targets video discussing stuff for those of you not on free hit this week. So go and check that out if you haven't already. Drop any questions you have about your free hit or not about your free hit, about the last few weeks of the season. Drop it all in the comment section down below. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.